everybody, welcome back. Glad to see you're here. Oh, look, I'm live. Let me go ahead and post the link into our event page so that everyone can see it and so that I can see your comments and questions. So let's do this. I hope everyone's doing well. I myself have had a string of bad luck in the last 24 hours. I have grated my thumb. I have stepped on glass. I have run into stuff. I'm just not doing well. Okay, I think we have updated. Awesome. Alright, so welcome back everyone. This week's class is sponsored by Bobby, Elizabeth, Marilyn, and as always, my mother. See? Can't even talk right now. Donation links are in the description if you are interested in becoming a sponsor to help keep these classes free. However, I am also now selling my rocks to help supplement some of that, the costs for this class. So any you see in class that I make or that I show as examples are available for purchase after the following class, so that way I can show them as the example for the next week. I am going to try and set up an online store, hopefully before next week, but we will see. But if you want to, feel free to send me a private message and I will talk to you about costs, shipping, etc. As always, feel free to comment with questions or concerns. I have my computer up so that I can see anything y'all message me. One of the questions I have though is, does this time work for you, or should it be earlier or later? Go ahead and let me know. I'm always interested to hear what you have to say, and please post pictures of your finished rocks. I love seeing what you guys come up with. Y'all are so creative. Okay, so last time we discussed dot techniques, and if you missed it, because this is the second part of the mandala class, go to the TX Rockers webpage or Facebook page and go under the video tabs and you will see. Alright, so last week we started with mandalas, which here are some examples of different types of mandalas. And we talked about the history of mandalas, and that mandala actually means circle in Sanskrit. So if you're interested, go look at that previous video because it will really help you with understanding what a mandala is, what it's used for in different practices, and things like Christianity uses them commonly is stained glass windows. So last week we finished this one. We only managed to finish one because mandalas take time, and that's why I try to explain to people, I'm like, yes, I make a lot of rocks and most are not very expensive, but my mandala rocks take forever. I do mandala artwork also on digital, like on my iPad, so I can kind of get an idea of what I want to do on my rocks. And even using symmetry, which finishes the different radial aspects for me, some of them take 2.5 hours. So it's not an easy art form. It's very time consuming, which is good for reflection and whatnot. So we started with these two last time. So we're going to finish these. If we have time, I'd like to get to the other two rocks, but if not, it's okay. So I'm just going to jump in, and this week we're not focusing so much on the dot technique, we're focusing also on what else you can use in your mandalas. So I'm going to get my brush and figure out what colors I was using. This is why it's hard to break in the middle of a class, or in the middle of a rock, is because I completely forget what colors I had. And I use just simple things. Oh, I was going to show you this. So I had a rock painting kit, because I talk about the pros and cons with them. And this is actually one of the better ones that I've gotten. So it comes with a little book. It's metallic rock painting, and it does teach some things pretty well, but other things it jumps quickly from, here's a rock that looks, I don't know if you can see that, like this, and then we're just going to jump straight over to here without explaining how you do it. So these aren't always the greatest books. And this one was actually pretty lucky. You'd still need to wash these rocks, but these aren't horrible rocks. But if you're teaching mandalas, trying to teach a mandala on like triangles and stuff, that's a little harder, especially with unsmooth rocks. And so they're just not the greatest quality, but I got this for $8, so I can't really expect much. But these do come with some pretty cool metallic paints that I might use for today's class, because I'm kind of interested in trying them out. So we'll see. We'll see if we get there. And they come with like a single brush, and this is their dotting tool, which is literally just a dowel that you can buy anywhere. So take it with a grain of salt. Okay, so I'm going to go right into doing this, and hopefully people who are coming in will catch up. I want to say it was this color that I used. This looks right, because it's all super watery. Gotta do something about that. Yeah, that looks right. Alright, as always, keep a paper towel on hand, because you want to wipe off any excess water and whatnot to not get watery paints like I have, because I apparently left water on my brush too often in that color. So I'm going to go with slightly darker purple, and I'm just going to take my thing, and I'm going to make a bigger dot where I last made a dot. But only on the purple ones. We're not doing the brown ones this time. So it should sort of look like that. Let's see. Oh, ooh, okay. Seems a bit redundant when you have this little thing. Oh, and they're completely dry. Cool. The good thing is, with acrylics especially, you can just wet your brush, put some water in, and stir, and usually that will wet them back out. See, now I'm getting some. Hopefully that's not too much. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to let that sit there, and hopefully it will get better. It's a pretty color though. I like the metallic. Wish it worked. That's the other thing, is sometimes you get really cruddy paint that's like quick to dry and just not the best paint in the world, unfortunately. And metallics tend to do that more. If they have glitter in them, they're going to do that more. So so now I'm just going to go back to this dark paint then. I'm not going to get too much on here, but we're going to do something a little bit different with the thing. So we're going to come over and make a line like we're heading to this other dot. See? But not quite touching, so don't touch the dot quite yet. Okay, so and then we're going to come up. Hi, cat. Like this, straight up. Notice we're not using dots anymore. We're going to make a spiral square effect. And you can make it as small as you feel comfortable with. I'm going to stop about there. So isn't that pretty? And you want to do that for each of the purple, going over that brown dot completely. And it's okay if they're not perfectly even. We're not competing, so it doesn't have to be a flawless artwork. But you want to make sure all of your lines go in the same direction. So if you did a square going inward this way, make sure all of them go in that way. And that way it looks very uniform. And try to keep them about the same size. That can be kind of hard when you're doing these sorts of things. And there's another cat in my room. Oh, please don't try and come over. Usually my cats are locked up. They are not today, so we might get a visitor again. Who knows? I just had to help break up a cat fight a few minutes ago. That was fun. Okay, so see how I'm doing this? Just like that. And we're going to go all the way through. I messed up what I was going to do, but it's fine. I wasn't actually intending to go this far, but it's okay. Like I said, this is your rock. Make it how you want it. You don't have to follow any specific script. I'm just going with the flow with how the rock wants to do it, apparently. Alright, so now we're just one more. This is kind of hard to do if you don't have like a really good circular rock, because you end up with unevenness. If you have a much bigger rock, this is easy, but a smaller, not circular, perfectly circle rock is kind of difficult. That's okay. They're still beautiful in their own way, so that's the important part. So see, now we have all of this. Isn't that cute? And I think I'm going to use some white. Whoop, that is a lot of white. I guess I'm making some white dots today. Alright, so in the center, where we have this, we're going to go and put tiny dots in between every single dot on our first row. And they're not very big dots, they're just pretty small. It all depends on how much space you left yourself. So see how I have little white dots? I don't know if you can actually see how I have the white dots, but I'm going to show you anyway, like you can see it. And then we're gonna go up with our string technique and make the last one a bigger. So it's gonna look like that. Hope you can see the white one. I know white on yellow is kind of hard to see on camera. Probably should have chosen a darker color. But you know, that's what happens. Okay. This is far too much paint. So we're just going to do that for every place we put a white dot. It's just going to go straight out. And this will give it a little bit more cohesion of color, which is pretty cool. Because then we can bring white in above the circle, outside of the little squares. And you want to make sure you're counting to make sure you're not adding too many dots in one spot, too few dots in another. Woo. And we're almost done. One more row. And there we go. See how pretty that looks? Isn't that nice? It just adds a little something, I think. And you can go back in and you can like add more white if you want an area to be more vibrant, if the rock sucked up some of your paint like mine did. And that will just help emphasize the white tones. Alright, so there we go. See? Isn't that nice? Okay. Hi everybody watching. So next I'm going to take my light purple again, and we're going to mimic what we just did with the squares. But with a smaller square. So it's right above the other line. This light. There, I don't know if you can see it. I hope you can see it. And then we're going to do an opposite direction square that's about half the size. So it won't be very big. But it'll be just big enough. And make sure you go the exact same way the next time. To create that complementary look. And so what it should look like is it will look like the two squares are back to back, essentially. And you may need to do this one twice, just because the yellow, if you have a yellow background at least, and that light color are kind of hard to see together. So I will need to do a second coat, or maybe a darker color. on top of it. I don't know. I might use a darker purple this time. Slightly darker. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. It's just slightly darker. Makes the world of the difference. There we go. So I'm just going to go right back over what I just did in that light in a darker tone. And then we're going to switch after that back to our white and black rock, which only looks white and black right now. You realize how horribly off you were on a couple of these. But that's okay. And if you really don't like it, you can always wash your rock with just water. And because it's acrylic, it will come off if you have not sealed it. Which is why we seal our rocks at the end. And I found this great sealer that is just so helpful. And it's the Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch Ultra Cover Clear Gloss Coat. And I actually like the gloss. I think it comes out really cool. Okay, so there we go. Now you can probably see it a little bit. Yeah, I was going for an Aztec feel in this. I wanted more of that Native American vibe, the kind of back to our roots feel. So while this dries, I'm going to set that right there. I'm going to go back to this rock, and we're going to take more white and continue our dotting. Which I know I just said wasn't going to do much dotting in this class. And here I am dotting. So this one we're just continuing to go back and forth between being in the middle of the line and being on the line in the windows. And remember what I said about if you leave those little mountains on the tops of these, it will create a texture. So if you don't want that, go in and just sort of swirl it out. And since we're going to go back over this in a different color, I would suggest swirling it out. So I'm just taking the little valley, circling it a little, or the hill rather, circling it to create a valley, and then just rubbing it off on my paper towel so that way it doesn't poke anymore. Alright, there we go. So we're going to do that again, going in between with much bigger dots, okay? So in color psychology, each of these colors means something different. So every color used in a mandala actually stands for something. So like red is strength, energy, passion. Pink is love, femininity, intuition. Orange is creativity, self-awareness, intuition, and transformation. Yellow is wisdom, learning, laughter, and happiness. Green is physical healing, psychic ability, nature, and caring. Blue is emotional healing, inner peace, and meditation. Purple are all things spiritual and for spiritual focus. And black is deep thinking, mystery, and individuality. Just some interesting tidbits about colors. And the lightened versions of colors and the darkened versions of colors also mean different things. Like in color psychology, the dark blue would stand for like security. So like you would use that if you were making something for, say, like a bank. That's why most banks' colors are either green for wealth or dark blue for security. Alright, so we're almost done with this. Whew, get rid of that mountain. And I messed up, that's fine. Alright, so now our rock kind of looks like this. See, it's just all white. It depends on the type of mandala you would like to do. Some mandalas take very little time. For instance, the mandala I did when we did our first dot technique, which was a flower, only took me about 10 minutes to do. But I had already kind of had an image in my head of what I was going to do, which helps. If you don't know what you're going to do, it's going to take a lot longer. Like I said, some of mine I have taken 2+ hours to do. And especially when you're doing paint, you have to wait for it to dry. So make sure you give yourself plenty of time to really sit there. And mandalas are supposed to be like meditation type things, and you sit there and you reflect, which is very easy when you have so much time watching paint dry. I respect time a lot more now that I've watched paint dry so many times. So it varies on rock size, on what type of paint you're using. Like oils would take forever if you're doing like an actual art piece. I would not suggest using oils on paint or on rocks. Oh no, I touched it. It's fine. So it really does vary depending. So it can take anywhere between 10 minutes to 2+ hours, just depending on what exactly you're trying to do. Alright, so we're going to go back to our Aztec looking rock. And I'm going to take green, my favorite. If you haven't guessed that I use green in almost every single rock. And we're going to create those swiping motions again to create growth. Please don't mess up. Please don't mess up. Like I said, I've had a string of bad luck, so I'm sort of like, please don't. Not with my rocks. I'm fine with having bad luck elsewhere, but not with my rocks. I put too much time and energy into these things. Okay, so this one goes almost completely off the edge. So you can see how I did the little bit of growth. And remember to do this the same way. The same direction with your first line, and then your second line. And it's okay if they touch. It's not, you don't have to have them separated. And then kind of make it look like the third one is there, or the last one's there, since my rock is not perfectly circular. And make sure when you're turning your rock to watch where you're putting your fingers. Well, remember, this is the second class for this technique. And next week I will need a break from mandalas. We will not be doing mandalas next week. We will be moving to something far simpler because my brain can only handle so much of these, because these take a lot out of you if you're planning to teach classes on them. You have to do a bunch of research about everything that makes a mandala, what it is, different techniques I have to learn, because this is probably my weakest area of rocks, is mandalas, and I'm pretty happy with the progress I've made in it, being ready to teach y'all, but it's still been pretty difficult for me personally. Alright, let's see if I can pick this up without destroying the rock. So now we have a little growth on the outside. And it's almost done. And I only have a little bit left of details that I'd like to add to this one. So we might actually get to some of our other... I wonder if the water's... Nope. Is it 6? Okay, so we have 30 minutes left. I might actually get to the next ones. Okay. Alright, these are dry enough in the center at least. Woo! The outside is still wet, however. So I do need to be careful about picking them up. I would start another one, but I already know this one's going to take some time, and I don't want to start another. Although, I guess, you know what, I am going to start another one. I guess I'm going to pick up my little blue rock, because I'm going to try and get through this one as fast as possible. So I'm going to take my light blue, put it in the middle. This is going to be one of the simpler rocks. I say simple. They're never really all that simple. I should stop saying simple. Less complicated, I guess. It's not simple per se. It's just much less complicated. And we're just going to take these dots and pretty much right next to each other, we're just going to go and do our string all the way to the outside corner. Same color. And if you mess up, that's fine. If you want to start over, you can. I'm not going to. I'm just going to let it be imperfect until I'm done. Okay, so see how I did one straight dotting line all the way out. I'm going to do that in 4 different directions. So north, south, east, and west of my rock is going to be the light blue. And this brush needs to be trimmed. Occasionally I do need to trim my brushes because they get frayed hairs, sort of like your actual hair gets frayed after a while. And you just trim off the areas that are fraying out. Or just buy a new brush. It's up to you. I mean, I got this one from like one of those little kits and it was like maybe $5 in total. It's not like I couldn't go buy more brushes. But whatever. Alright. Oh, I'm just realizing how not centered my circle in the middle was. Oh well. Someone will think it's gorgeous. That's the important part. It may not be me, but someone will. And I mean, for me, that's the point, is I like to put my rocks out. Yes, I am selling some of my more difficult rocks. And some people want my simpler rocks so that they can put them out in their own neighborhood, and I think that's pretty cool. Just that way, you know, even non-artists can do them, or they can give them as gifts, which is pretty nice. So, like, giving one to, you know, a grandmother or a mom on Mother's Day, which, happy Mother's Day. I know it's in a couple days, but happy Mother's Day to all those mothers out there. Alright, and then we're going to take a different color. I'm going to do pink. This fluorescent crazy pink. Because I like it. Right next to the previous dot. On the first row. On every side. Make sure to put it on the same side. If you're doing it on like the left or the right, just make sure on all of them it's on that same side. So I'm doing it right there. And then we're just going to repeat what we did with the blue, following right next to it. And you may naturally develop windows, and that's cool. And a window is when it's in between two dots. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Remember that. This is your rock. I already messed up. It's fine. And we're just going to keep going. And if it's not dark enough, just wait until it dries and go in and just darken it. You know? It's as easy as that. We're almost done. Whew. Like I said, I say simpler. They're not. They're just a little less complex. I don't personally think any mandala is simple. Okay, so see how I did second? We're going to do that. And now choose another color. Keep repeating this process throughout. So I'm going to do a vibrant yellow now. And we're just going to choose a side. I'm going to continue in the direction I'm going. You don't have to. But I have kind of a idea of what I'm doing, I guess. What I'm attempting to do. Whether or not it will actually end up the way I want, I don't know yet. We'll find out. one of those stay tuned moments. And remember to watch out for the paint on your edges. I did it again. That's why it helps to have like a little, essentially a lazy Susan for your rocks. So you don't keep touching them. And if your paint gets too runny and touches each other, that's okay. You can go back in with the base coat paint, which I think was this color over here. Yeah, and put just a little bit between once it's all dried. Alright, so see how I'm doing that? And then you're just going to keep choosing different colors to do. I think I'm going to choose a purple. I don't want to do orange or green because they come from yellow. And now that we've lost, or at least I have, I don't know if you have yet, lost the first row ability to put more dots, or room, I guess. I'm going in and doing it off the other line. So see how it's coming up? I'm just going to do that all the way around again. And this is what I meant about it can take as long as you need it to. Some people move slower painting dots, some people move faster. Just sort of also varies on how you paint. Alright, so there's a purple layer. Next I'm going to do green. No, orange. I'm going to do orange next. I lied. Whoop! I plumb took that one out. And if you did this with a string where it was actually changing sizes, it would also look really cool. I kind of stopped doing that because I didn't feel like switching brushes a lot. And this brush is not the best for the tiny, tiny dots. So we're just kind of going with it. It sort of looks like growth or a string, but not quite. If you don't know what string is, it's a series of dots that grows in size. At least that's what I'm calling it. I don't know if that's actually the correct term, but that's what I call the technique, because that's what it looks like to me. It's a string. Luckily, the further you get in this, the less time it takes to do a line of them. So depending on how big your rock is, this could take very little time at this point. Alright, so now I'm going to do the green. For real this time. And we're just going up like we did on the previous line from the other line of the perpendicular, I guess, placement. Be very careful not to touch your edges, as I have been doing. Alright, so see? It's starting to look kind of like a kaleidoscope effect. Just sort of what I'm going for. But I'm running out of ideas for colors. I think I'm going to do a berry color now. Mostly because I really like this color. Don't be afraid to re-dip. Remember, if this time does not work for you, please let me know. And we can try and work something out. Especially now that things, at least in Texas, are reopening. Times are going to probably get shifted around a little bit. Oh, I'm not putting much paint on my brush. Let me show you with my next color, which is going to be just plain yellow. I'm out of yellow here. Like I said, need more supplies. Really hard to find supplies right now in stores. So I put about that much. I don't know if you can kind of see that. It's not much. But then I don't push all the way in, if that makes sense. I like barely tap my brush to it so that I get those smaller dots. Yeah, touching paint, touching paint. Almost right. I don't have it in a pod. Almost through. Alright. So see how we're doing. Almost done. Going to do have a lot of pink. Let me use a kind of a teal, very light teal. So see, I don't know how well you can see that, but okay, I guess that's good. And we're just gonna do the same thing we've done over and over and over again as we turn it around. Carefully turning it around. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pick this one up. And there we go. See how pretty that looks? And it's just very simple. Just dot, 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 dot. Very easy. I might add a few more levels once that has dried. We shall see. But right now, I want to get back to this one and try and finish it in the 8 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to take red. I'm going to do this really fast. And I'm just going to go over every dot. In order of going to the right. You can go left, you can do whatever. I'm just doing kind of a spiral pattern because that's what I was doing last class. Because I was thinking about spirals. And then I'm going to take an orange. Hello, cat. And I'm just going in and I'm filling in. I don't know if you can kind of see what I'm doing or not. I'm going in, spiraling, see? Of course mine is backwards to you, but you get the point. I'm going to take yellow, which luckily I already have poured. Thank you, Last Rock. And I'm going in and I'm just repeating this process through the entire rainbow. And green. I'm not putting much paint on my brush here either, about the same amount of paint I was a few minutes ago, because if you do too much it will make those hills, so you don't want to really do that if you can avoid it. I mean, unless you want a texture piece, which, like I said, it's up to you if you want one. I just personally don't for this rock. Blue. And I am going to leave one intentionally white. Because I think it'll look cooler with just one white. You could also do one that's all the rainbow. Blue. Do I have an indigo? No, of course not. Of course I don't. Cool. It's not really indigo. Just kind of use little dark blue with some purple mixed. Kind of make an indigo. This might be too dark once it's dry, I don't know. Hopefully not. Indigo is almost over. And then violet. Alright. Ta-da! See how pretty that is? That's very simple. I mean, we literally drew out the lines, did progressively bigger dots throughout the entire piece, and then went back in and created a spiral through it. Okay, so back to my Aztec rock, which is almost finished. I just want to add a dot in the center, and then some dots in each of the big purple dot to kind of look down, essentially. And then some light green on the leaves. And what I'm doing is just that kind of swiping motion inside the leaves to give it some color. And remember, donation links are in our description. If you would like to become a sponsor, thank you so much to my sponsors. I could not do this without you. Quite literally, we would already be without this class. So, yeah. And there's our finished one. Alright, so here are all our finished products. And next week will be Garden Buddies, part 2. So I hope to see you all there. Bye!